Good morning, and thank you all for being here today to discuss a very important initiative that we have taken on as a state of Mississippi. Perhaps what Ryan Miller is doing is likely the single most important initiative that is proactive in our state right now with respect to investing in our people and growing our economy. You know, one of the things, and some of you have heard me say this a lot, one of the things that frustrates me the most in government particularly, but just in general, is when I hear the old saying, you know, well, why are we doing this? And the answer comes back, well, that's because that's the way things have always been done. Well, when I hear this saying, alarm bells go off for me, because it essentially means that we're being satisfied with never reaching our full potential. When it comes to workforce development and training in Mississippi, I refuse to allow our state to adopt this mentality. I refuse to allow anything less than accomplishing our full potential. I refuse to, quote, do things simply because that's the way they've always been done. As I've said throughout my entire public service career, one of my top priorities is to make Mississippi the best place in America to live, the best place in America to invest capital and create jobs, the best place in America to work, and ultimately the best place in America to raise a family. To accomplish this goal, we must have a skilled and well-trained workforce. The bedrock of a successful economy lies within a skilled workforce that can adapt to the evolving industry trends and help us attract new businesses. I've been able to, over the last several months, travel to businesses throughout our state that are expanding. I've been able to travel to other places where we're seeing new capital being invested. And we repeatedly hear, first of all, of the strong work ethic that Mississippians have. We hear repeatedly of how important the workforce is to business decisions going forward. And so to get to where we want to ultimately be from a workforce development strategy perspective, it's important to fully understand and appreciate where we find ourselves today. It's imperative that we recognize that it has worked well in the past, but perhaps more importantly, what hasn't worked so well in the past. For our workforce development strategy to be successful, we need to ensure that all of our boats are rowing in the same direction. We need to ensure that all of our partners, such as state agencies, educators, economic developers, and private industry, are singing from the same song thread. We need a focused, coordinated, and well-organized effort that leverages our resources efficiently and effectively. The left hand must know what the right hand is doing. In fact, the left hand first needs to know that the right hand exists. That's why I was proud to sign Senate Bill 2564, which created the Office of Workforce Development, or now commonly known as Accelerate Mississippi. Accelerate Mississippi is going to be crucial in our state's efforts to implement this focused, coordinated, and well-organized strategy. Within the first 6 months, I appointed Patrick Sullivan and several others to the State Workforce Investment Board to assist in overseeing Accelerate Mississippi's creation. I was glad that the board decided to hire Ryan Miller as its first executive director. I can tell you, having worked with Ryan now for a little over 6 months, Mississippi is in good hands with Ryan. You can tell he has a true passion for workforce development and will do everything in his power to ensure Mississippians have what they need to have a successful career right here at home. And Ryan knows he has my full support and the full efforts of the governor's office to help him in that effort. Our teams have been collaborating closely, and I'm extremely pleased with the results over the first 6 months of this initiative. In this short period of time, Accelerate Mississippi has made key hires to its team and assessed the current condition of workforce development strategy throughout our state. While their preliminary findings indicate there has been a success on a micro level, it is also clear that there is room for improvement at the macro level. Some of the areas of improvement include doing a better job informing employers about the workforce development resources available to our people, ensuring that career educational programs are aligned with one another, and providing more clarity regarding the roles our various state agencies play in the workforce development process. Thankfully, we have a plan to address these issues. Way back in 2019, when I campaigned for governor, by the way, it seems like 150 years ago now, but way back in 2019 when I campaigned for governor, I highlighted the need for Mississippi to take a regional approach to workforce development. Moving forward, my administration and Accelerate Mississippi will be dividing the state into 8 regions or ecosystems to meet the unique needs each part of the state. By partnering with communities at the local level, the needs of each individual community can be met in a way that is unique to them based on population, based on geography, based on infrastructure, and of course, yes, based on connectivity. We will also be taking a continuous improvement approach to workforce development. This approach will build upon best practices, improve communication, and enhance collaboration within each of these 8 ecosystems. We will continuously review the actions taken to ensure the state is adequately focusing our resources to make good jobs with above average wages sustainable for our fellow Mississippians, both now and for future generations. Now, I'm going to ask Ryan Miller to come up and discuss this approach and some of the other items that I've touched upon here this morning. And then after Ryan comes up, we've got a couple of other speakers that are going to do a fantastic job talking about some of the decisions, the ways in which those decisions are going to impact everyday Mississippians. So with that, Ryan, thank you for being here, and come on up.
Thank you, Governor Reeves. It's a pleasure and a privilege, and I appreciate y'all being here this morning. This is an exciting thing for me, albeit a little bit nerve-wracking, but I'm excited to be here and get to visit with you and to tell you what we've been doing here in the Office of Workforce Development. I want to thank the leadership, certainly the Governor's Office, Lieutenant Governor, Speaker of the House, and the legislators in workforce development. 6 months and 2 weeks ago, but no one's counting, I took on this role at April 12th as the Executive Director. And I can tell you, great fear, trepidation, but also great excitement, just the enormity of the job and responsibility. And at that time, and I've heard the Governor say it even 3 times this morning, I was told by each person, the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and Speaker of the House, Ryan, the most important issue facing the state of Mississippi is workforce. Talk about getting a little nervous in my shoes at that moment, understanding that it was that important to them. It certainly was and is important to me. I think it's important to all of us. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we've done in the last 6 months. For those of you that know me, I spent almost 13 years at the Center for Manufacturing Excellence, a program that tries to prepare young men and women for careers in manufacturing. And the cornerstone of that program is Kaizen thinking, continuous improvement. Each day we teach students to understand that they are never done improving. There is always room to improve what they do, regardless of whether that's a manufacturing process, an example of standardized work, or even project management. There's always room to improve what you do, to improve the overall quality of the process and invariably the product that you're trying to produce. Same concept applies to us as individuals. There's always room for us to improve. I've brought that same philosophy of Kaizen thinking to Accelerate Mississippi. We are never done improving workforce development in the state of Mississippi. And to do that effectively, you have to understand current condition. If you want to dream up the ideal condition, where you want to go in the future, you better know where you're starting from. And that oftentimes requires you to look in the mirror and have an honest assessment as to who you are and where you've been. At the culmination of this press conference this morning, we will have a report posted that kind of highlights some of the current condition discoveries that we've had over the last 6 months. And let me tell you, I want to start off by prefacing this. We do some amazing things in this state. There are amazing programs scattered around the state that are doing wonderful things for their community, whether you are looking at pre-K, kindergarten, a curriculum at Goshen and Pascagoula, whether you're looking at the Academy of Innovation in Vicksburg, Mississippi, the unbelievable CTE program at Gulfport High School, New Albany, Oxford. There are some amazing programs in our K through 12, amazing programs in our community college system, but you know, we don't really do a good job of telling that story often. We don't really do a good job of sharing best practices with one another, not consistently anyway. There's always room for improvement. And Accelerate Mississippi, as a governor alluded to earlier, has created our 8 ecosystem approach, our ecosystem program. And within each of those ecosystems, we'll have tables set with policy leaders, educators, economic developers, nonprofits who have a passion, a heart, and a mission for helping and being a part of the team. We're going to have our WEO workforce directors who have been tremendous partners thus far. Most importantly, we will have industry members. Industry that understands to be part of the solution, they have to be at the table communicating and even putting their own skin in the game. Each of these ecosystems will be tasked and challenged to regularly review 3 pillars, 3 buckets, and you'll see this in the report. Something we call customizable training, which is an approach that we often use for new companies moving to Mississippi or companies existing that want to expand and grow. How can we develop training programs specific to that company's needs? How can we do a better job? How can we improve that? Horizon thinking, the next pillar, next bucket. What are we doing to plan for the careers that aren't even here yet? Do we have the resources in place? Do we have the right curriculum in place? Do we have the right infrastructure to be ready for those technologies and those innovations that will impact our workforce that are on the horizon 15, 20, and even 30 years from now? But what brings us here today is the last bucket, something that we call workforce triage. We have companies who need people, and we have people who need good jobs. How can we do this better? You may have seen here recently that we took the approach of awarding a request for a proposal that we had submitted to our community college partners for Operation Diesel Tech, or a diesel technician and maintenance program. Every year, the state of Mississippi needs over 500 of those professionals in the workforce, and every year we produce a little over 100. There's a deficiency there. Not to mention the fact that those jobs are jobs that pay incredibly well for a limited amount of training. 2 years at Hines Community College, 2 years at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, 2 years at East Mississippi Community College will get you an opportunity to make really good wages, great jobs, and have a meaningful and impactful career. And here with us this morning to talk a little bit about that specific project, we have Dr. Mary Graham from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, who was the first community college to rise to the challenge and to submit a request, a proposal for Operation Diesel Tech. And I would like for her to take just a few minutes to share some of their perspective as to how this might help the Gulf Coast and the state of Mississippi move forward. Dr. Graham.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, I echo the governor's comments and Ryan Miller's comments to thank all of you for being here today. This is exciting news for the state of Mississippi, and I want to commend our governor because this is bold, innovative thinking to redirect limited workforce training dollars for the state of Mississippi in a very strategic way, a very data-driven way so that we can address the needs of employers. The focus is definitely on employers, but it's also on economic development, the opportunity to lift up Mississippians and to provide a career pathway that not only fills the void for the workplace, but also gives our students, our trainees, an opportunity to train in a high-paying field. So, Governor, thank you. Ryan, thank you. You did a good job naming Ryan. He's really been great to work with. I do want to say that, the key to all of this is economic development for the state, and the governor said it so well. We want people to want to live in Mississippi. We want people to invest in Mississippi, and we want to make sure our business, our employers, our industries are thriving and doing well. The only way to make that happen is to provide them with the much-needed workforce, and that's what we intend to do with this new project that we're undertaking at Gulf Coast Community College. From all indications, and Ryan mentioned the report that would be coming out, and you all need to hear that these decisions aren't just made randomly. They're data-driven. They're very much directed toward employer needs, and that's what we're trying to do, address those employer needs. It's a competitive process, which I think is healthy for the state of Mississippi. Rather than just allocating funds to all entities that do training, I think the ecosystem process is very positive. We'll have different needs on the Mississippi Gulf Coast as they will have different needs in the northern part of the state, and on and on. So I think it's important. The strategy is a good strategy. You all know, and we've said it already, the goal of Accelerate Mississippi is to move more Mississippians into career pathways that lead to good jobs, high-paying jobs, high-demand jobs, and that's what we intend to do. So let me tell you a little bit about what we will do with this grant that we've been awarded at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. The program is the Heavy Equipment Diesel Maintenance Program. It's a very high-demand area, and you're going to hear a little bit from one of the experts in the field. But what you need to hear from me is that we are cognizant of the needs of employers. We talk to them. They serve on advisory boards. We find out what they need. They help develop curriculum so that it's meeting industry standards, and we make sure that all the credentials the students will receive as a result of this program are industry-recognized credentials. So we make sure the training is in tune to the employer needs. For this program, we'll provide ASE training, MACS certification, Cummins certification, Freightliner training, Caterpillar. Again, we'll be working with industries, Stribling, Empire, the list goes on and on. The one thing that we're going to do different, because we already have started a diesel program and we have a truck driving program, so we're going to consolidate these, give these maintenance mechanics the opportunity not only to train and be a high-paid technician, but they'll also have their truck driving license. They'll have their CDL. So we felt like, as the training entity, we wanted to make them as marketable as possible. So they'll come in and be trained to do the work, but think about, from a very common sense approach, somebody has to drive the truck in, someone has to test drive to make sure it's working properly. So we're going to add that value to that program. We'll expand our advisory committee from 10 to 15. Again, we're located on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but the reality of it is we're going to train 40 workers in the next year, and they can come from anywhere in Mississippi. We're open to that, and we're willing to train them. The tuition will be free as a part of this grant, so we're excited about that. It will allow us to buy some much-needed equipment to enhance the program that we already had. Several of the pieces of equipment will be trainers. And people say, trainers versus the real equipment. The reality of it is, every year the industry standards change. With trainers, you can recalibrate that training system and just upgrade so that you're always on top of what the industry needs. So we intend to do that. We're excited about it. We're excited about the data-driven approach. Numbers matter, accountability matters, and we're glad to be one of the first community colleges out of the chute. I know my brothers, and I know they're very competitive, so you will see more interest. Community college will step up, as we've always done, to offer that training for business and industry. We want to be a leader in economic development to support everything that's happening with Accelerate Mississippi. And again, the real purpose of all of this is to lift up Mississippians, bring employers to Mississippi, satisfy that pipeline of maybe an aging market. A lot of folks are aging out of these craft positions, so we have to resupply that pipeline. We intend to do it at Gulf Coast. All the community colleges intend to do it, and we appreciate the leadership of our governor and Ryan Miller. Thank you all.
Dr. Graham, thank you so much for your words. And at this time, I'd also like to bring up Bob Bullard, who is the service manager for Empire Stribling. This is one such company in the state of Mississippi that, when I was speaking earlier, gets it and understands that they want to be at the table and they want to be part of the solution. They have a need, but they also want to be part of that solution. So, Bob, if you wouldn't mind coming forward and just sharing a few moments of your perspective on this as well, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. Governor, I'd like to take a minute to thank you very much for this. This is a big deal to us. It's something we've been needing for years, so thank you very much. Like Ryan said, I'm Bob Bullard with Empire Trucks. I work with Empire and Stribling Equipment. I represent the executive staff, and my responsibility is everything diesel technician. I'm I'm a product of the Mississippi Community College program. I went to the diesel program at Hines, and I represent what's available to the youth out there today of what they can accomplish. These are not jobs. These are careers. These are meaningful careers that'll go with them throughout their lifetime. The community college is a starting point for them. When they graduate as employers, we invest a lot more money in them to keep them going. It's a very expensive endeavor for us. And we just can't hire the numbers that we need today. And with this program, we hope to start seeing this thing get traction and start helping us realize our goals, because there's a lot of opportunities out there for the youth in Mississippi. Okay? Thank you.
So in closing for my time, I'll just say thank you, Bob. Thank you, Dr. Graham, for being here. Thank you, Governor. The data-driven approach is important. And moving on from here, we'll be identifying other key industry sectors that have a desperate or emergent need, and community college partners that have programs that, if given additional funds or given additional resources, can help grow those pathways and pipelines. You'll see some of those enumerated in that report. You can find that at acceleratems.org. And again, that report will be made available sometime after this press conference. Again, that's acceleratems.org. I'm grateful for your time, Governor. Thank you so much. I'll turn it back over to you. We're excited where we're going. We're going fast, and we hope you come with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. And I just want to reiterate a couple of things. This is a data-driven approach. You all have watched me enough over the last couple of years at least, and for many of you over the last 15 years, and know that I'm a numbers guy, and we're going to fund things based upon the data, and we're going to fund opportunities based upon the data. And what Mary represents, Mary's a shining star in Mississippi and across this nation in the community college system, but she represents all 15 community college presidents in that they all have programs that have potential to connect individual Mississippians with the potential for jobs. Bob represents one of the great companies headquartered here in Mississippi. He also represents a graduate of the community college system that has risen up and done great things. But he also represents literally thousands of employers throughout Mississippi who are facing labor shortages today. And it is our responsibility, I believe, to do everything we can to take those individual Mississippians that are capable and want a job, train them in such a way that gives them an opportunity, which ultimately benefits the individual, benefits Mississippians, and at the end of the day will also ultimately benefit small businesses across our state. And so this is one example of many, but the example that is so important is before you know that the right investment is to fund this request through Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, you have to do the research to recognize that Mississippi needs 500 additional diesel mechanics on an annual basis, and we only produce 100. Well, clearly, and if you look at the average wage of those diesel mechanics, they make a lot more than a lot of the college graduates that exist out there. Certainly, they make a lot more than I made my first job when I graduated from a four-year institution. And so while college is a great option and four-year institutions of higher learning are great options for many kids, it's not the only option. And that's one of the messages that we have got to continue to convey to our young people throughout the state, is there are a lot of paths to long-term personal prosperity as well as economic prosperity. And I'm convinced that Accelerate Mississippi is in partnering with these 8 ecosystems and partnering with our community colleges and partnering with our mayors and our supervisors and people all across the state with our private industry. We've got a great opportunity for taking those jobs that are available that are paying above average wages and finding individual Mississippians who want a career. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Courtney?
Governor, can either you or Ryan speak to the funding piece of it? This is $1 million grant, but how much is available in this pot and kind of how quickly that will need to kind of get dispersed?
Yeah, so when we reinstituted the State Workforce Investment Board, and so Ryan is, in essence, when you look at the federal statutes that have been changed over the last 8 to 10 years, Mississippi, with the help of Republicans and Democrats in the House and the Senate, and I want to be clear about that, we were able to get this legislation done. We had a lot of great partners in doing that. This legislation was spearheaded by Senator Parker in the Senate, Representative Donnie Bell in the House of Representatives, and we commend both of them for sharing our vision. And in essence, what they were able to do is take some of the existing workforce dollars and give Accelerate Mississippi the ability to oversee them. And so I'll let Ryan get into the specifics, but in essence, on this particular piece, there's $25 million, 15 of which are going to each of the community colleges, which gives Ryan and his team an additional $10 million to strategically invest in new programs and really expanding programs that we know produce graduates that immediately get jobs paying above average wages. Dr. Graham, she already had a diesel mechanic program, and she produced really good graduates. This is going to allow her to double in size that particular program. But Ryan, you want to go into any more details?
I'll just add one or two more statements. So the state of Mississippi has great financial resources available for workforce. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year on workforce development. Just for years, we've kind of spent it in a buckshot approach. Good programs that maybe made some differences, but we want to see that on a larger scale and more consistently. And one of the funding mechanisms over which we've been given responsibility is then the Workforce Enhancement Training Funds, or WET funds as we call them. The governor alluded there was $25 million made available this year through unemployment, the unemployment insurance. It's a diversion, creates this fund that we can then use strategically and statistically, I might add, backed up by statistic, to provide resources to community colleges above and beyond the initial allocation that we made specific for these types of projects.
Thank you, Ryan. And I'll just, this is a process that I personally have been working on for years. We actually created the initial diversion for the funding when I was lieutenant governor for these WET funds. And, we actually created the program for the Mississippi Works funds as well that we utilize for training for new business and industry. And so if you'll recall, when we created this diversion, we were able to lower unemployment taxes on all small businesses across Mississippi, and we were able to divert a portion of those unemployment taxes to create this workforce training dollars in such a way. And the reason we were able to do that is because our unemployment trust fund was so fiscally healthy. When we came into the pandemic, Mississippi had one of the 5 most fiscally sound unemployment trust funds. We've spent a lot of money out of that trust fund, but in working with the legislature last year, you'll probably recall that we were able to use some of our federal dollars to pump back into that system so that we wouldn't find ourselves where we'd have to raise taxes on employers coming out of this. And so it's really it's a true success story that many other states are asking how we have a trust fund that has the balances that we have today. Yes, sir.
Governor, what differences or similarities were identified to create the 8 regions or ecosystems, as you called it, across the state?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Governor. I'll give you a little aside real quick. I grew up in Long Beach, Mississippi. I'd go Bearcats. But I went to college in Oxford, Mississippi. And Long Beach, in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, though it's part of Mississippi, though we have that common thread of being Mississippians, it's decidedly different than the Red Clay Hills of Mississippi where I went to college. And so we thought, and still are trying to mold and shape this program, but the concept is let's build these ecosystems in regions where there are those common uniquenesses of that specific region, where they have access to community colleges and four-year institutions, where they have K through 12 programs, some that are very innovative and wanting to grow some of those innovations. We talk to our community college partners. We talk to our WIOA workforce director partners. We've talked to economic developers to try to triangulate, if you will, where those 8 ecosystems reside. And I think you'll see in that report later today, there was, I think, some great thought and wise counsel that went into locating those where they are. But you'll see those, and they make sense. Mississippi Delta. My wife was born in the Delta. The Delta is different than Jackson, Mississippi. It's got uniqueness. It's got an incredible, vibrant culture that's different than you'll find in other places. They also have unique challenges that we need to help them with, and we need to be teammates to them in those specific things. So the ecosystems were developed and devised very carefully with those things in mind.
Yeah, that was a proposal that I initially had in 2019, and it was born by the fact that if you really travel around Mississippi and you listen to small business owners and you listen to their employees, it becomes very clear very quickly that just one economic development strategy, just one workforce development strategy does not work in our state because one size does not fit all. Where Ryan grew up in Long Beach, they build a lot of ships on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. They don't build very many ships in the Mississippi Delta. They don't build very many ships in Northeast Mississippi. And so we need an economic development and a workforce strategy built around the specific employers in the various regions of the state. Conversely, Northwest Mississippi Community College has a great partnership with John Deere, and they do some mechanics. They produce some mechanics in the John Deere space. Well, there are a lot of need for that in the Mississippi Delta. There's some need for it on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but not as much as the farming and agricultural economy of the Mississippi Delta. We need less of a shotgun approach and just say we're just going to train people whether there are jobs available for them or not. We need to understand what is needed within those 8 ecosystems, and we need to make sure that we're investing in programs that produce graduates where if the individuals want to stay where they're actually going to school, that they have that opportunity to do so. Bailey?
With the Gazebo Gazette has a question.
Questions for you. The first one, thank you, Governor. The first one, then following with follow-up. First one is about Governor. Last week you released a task force report identifying the teacher shortages, and talk to me about how this would be effective, where the number one priority of the workforce improvement would be, because I think based on this lengthy report that you sent, it would obviously be in the teacher shortage area would be a high priority, and then I'm going to have a follow-up with that.
Yeah, sure. Well, you're exactly right. And I knew when Ryan mentioned Long Beach, Mississippi, that Hunter was going to pipe up with a question. He loves that western Harrison County area. Hunter, great question. You know, I think, first of all, what you're seeing is the report that we released last week. We partnered with the Southern Regional Education Board, of which some very, very capable Mississippians serve. And then with the report that Ryan and his team have produced today, I think one of the themes that you're seeing is that if you'll recall in my very first State of the State address, I told you that my approach was going to be, we're not trying to hide our problems. We're not trying to hide our challenges. We're trying to fix our challenges. We're trying to fix the problems that exist in Mississippi. And for us to be able to do that, we have to first fully understand and appreciate and recognize where the challenges are. That's the reason you've seen us, even in the midst of the last year and a half, which certainly has created its own set of challenges, doing the necessary work to do that. The teacher challenges that we have, what that report will show you, which is what we've said for many years, clearly we've got some opportunities to increase teacher pay, which we think will help in the long term. I proposed $4,300 2 years ago per year for our teachers. We have seen an increase of $1,000, and so I have renewed my call for an additional $3,300 per individual teacher. We need to reward what they've been able to do in the last year and a half that hasn't happened in many states around the country. But we also have to recognize that there are other factors that are leading to young teachers in their first 5 years in the classroom leaving that particular field. And so those are very important items and ones that we're going to continue to attempt to address. Okay.
Governor, the follow-up question would be, you and I spoke, I believe, in late July about this. I'd asked you the question, when was there going to be an initial special session called about the proposal, the initiative proposal? And you had told me that you weren't going to call a special session until both sides had agreed with the proposal and came forward. It seems to me from the reports that they have released that there is a unified proposal. Are you going to call a special session? Is it of interest to you?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question, Hunter. There is no update on exactly when the special session is going to occur, but I do anticipate that we are going to have one sooner rather than later. I had a great call with Speaker Gunn and Lieutenant Governor Hoseman on Monday afternoon. They have laid out some of the proposal that has been put forward. There are some other issues that we've got to address and some other items within the medical marijuana proposal. It's things such as funding, et cetera, and so we should be getting a proposal with respect to an appropriation bill, what that may look like. And so we are a long way towards getting to a final agreement, but we're not all the way there yet. But I do want to commend leaders in both the House and the Senate who have worked very, very hard to get to this point. And at this point, it's just a matter of working out the final details. Yes, sir.
Is the task force also looking at ways to develop the food service industry in Mississippi that's also facing a large staffing shortage right now?
I think that there's certainly there will be an attempt to address all of the various shortages that exist out there. But I do want to make sure that I'm clear. Our ultimate goal is to drive per capita incomes up. Drive per capita incomes up. The way you drive per capita incomes up is you train and you retrain the workforce to provide for the jobs of the next 50 years, not the jobs of the last 50 years. And so whether it's our economic development efforts through Mississippi Development Authority, where we are really stressing the desire, if someone wants to come and invest here, we strongly encourage it. But if it's a true partnership with the state, we want to see per capita incomes that are greater than, say, the county average in which they may locate. And so when you see the programs that Ryan and his team with our support are going to invest in, these are going to be programs that are not providing workers for below average wages, but are providing workers that we know that are needed in very high wages when compared to others within that particular region. And that's, by the way, yet another reason why the 8 ecosystems are so important, because average wages in Dr. Graham's area may be very different than average wages in one of the other 7, and therefore we should be willing to recognize that and be willing to invest in programs that perhaps are different as well. And I think that makes sense as well, because our goal is to drive per capita income and wages up in every region of the state.
With Mississippi Today has a question.
Great.
Hello. This one may wind up being more for Ryan because it's a little in the weeds, but I'm wondering if the ecosystems are expanding on the already existing local workforce development areas that are under the planning development districts, or is this like something totally separate?
I'll let Ryan answer that.
Hey, Sarah, good morning. Thank you for the question. And the answer to that is yes and no. I'm a lawyer by education, so I can try to be ambiguous and vague as I can. No. Really, honestly, we've worked very closely with the directors of those 4 WIOA regions. And in fact, you'll see a map today in that report that shows the location of those ecosystems. I showed that to them first. Those folks have been working tirelessly for years to try to move their communities forward, and there's no doubt my desire is not to make things more confusing or muddy the waters any more than we have to. What you'll find is that each one of those WIOA workforce regions, there are 4, has 2 ecosystems within them. So working with them to try to identify where we could place those ecosystems within their regions and districts so that it wasn't duplicative and it certainly wasn't going to confuse. If anything now, where maybe Accelerate can be a better teammate and have more resources within those 4 regions broken down into subcomponents that might be able to move the needle a little bit more. So we've worked very closely with them. They have been great encouragers and partners with us, and we feel confident that the way we've designed that ecosystem is complementary to the WIOA workforce regions.
And I think that brings up a great point, which is the complementary nature of what we're trying to accomplish. If you have a really strong workforce WIOA region, if you have a really strong program, our goal is to enhance it, is to help fund it, and to help grow it. If, however, that is not the case, our goal is to ultimately help fix it. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that every single Mississippian has an opportunity for long-term success. That is the goal. It's about investing in our people so that they have the opportunity for long-term success. Yes, ma'am.
You want to speak a little bit more to the horizon thinking piece? So often we have heard about this is what the industry needs, so we're going to do the training that's necessary for them. But how important it is when we're looking at recruiting new industry to the state who could potentially offer even higher wages than what we have available right now.
Well, you know, I sometimes get in trouble when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. And this is really what sparked my desire to initiate and lead and hold everyone in the game accountable. So my view has always been, even during my tenure as Lieutenant Governor, my view has always been that if there is an employer out there that wants to come to Mississippi and invest significant amounts of capital, and they can define what their ideal worker looks like, we have a great system. We can spend the resources and we can go train those individuals to meet the needs of that new employer that is coming into our state. And we're really good at that. And we've proven that time after time. And we've proven it in every region of our state, from Nissan to Toyota to Ingalls on the Gulf Coast, and every other region in our state. We have proven that if you need a certain type of worker and you come to us and say, we will invest X number of hundreds of millions of dollars, we need a workforce that can do the following things, help us do it, we're very good at it. And we're going to continue to do that, by the way. That's one of the 3 pieces that Ryan mentioned, because we have to. But to a certain extent, we also have to take a step back and realize that's almost exactly backwards. Rather than the companies coming here and saying, if you help us invest in your workforce, we will locate there. What if we were successful in investing in our workforce now on the front end and developing a workforce that in and of itself recruits business and industry into our state because they want to come and take advantage of that workforce and hire our people because our people have been trained for the jobs of the next 50 years. And that's really what this is all about. It's all about sort of that transition. We're still going to be doing this in the interim, making sure that we're training anyone that needs to be trained for new jobs that pay above average wages. But while at the same time, we're creating a true ecosystem statewide that is training with the types of skills that are needed in the types of industries that we think we can recruit into our state. And the easy starting point, of course, is in those industries with those businesses that are already here that we know need workers that are trained a certain way right now. And so at the end of the day, when we are successful, and I didn't say if we are successful, I said when we are successful at this, it's going to help change not only the perception of Mississippi, but also we're going to see population trends change. We're going to see a lot of additional things happen in our state that are good for our economy long term, but if we get this piece right, and we're going to get this piece right. You want to talk a little bit?
No, I think you nailed it.
Yes, sir.
Governor, you told CNN the other day that deaths are a lagging indicator, and Mississippi has one of the highest mortality rates in the nation, or has the highest mortality rate in the nation. Is there anything that you feel like you could have done differently a few weeks ago to try to prevent that?
Well, look, there's no doubt that you and many others want us to shut down the state. Y'all want lockdowns. You want us to have mandates, whether it's vaccines or otherwise. And we believe that one of the reasons that our economy continues to thrive is because we didn't do that in Mississippi. You can go to other states around the country and you can see their economic recovery from the initial depths of the pandemic, and it's just nowhere near where ours is. It's nowhere near where other states that have kept their economy open. And so as we've said repeatedly, that our goal in COVID has been the same from the beginning, and that is we want to protect the lives of Mississippians while also protecting their livelihoods. Now, every single death that has occurred in Mississippi because of COVID is a tragedy. It is a tragedy, and it breaks my heart that that has occurred, and that's a fact. Our goal with COVID has been to make sure that if you get COVID, that every single person that can get better with quality care receives that quality care. It's never been our goal to attempt to alleviate or eliminate the virus, because that's just simply not a realistic goal. If you look at the numbers today, Mississippi is the 32nd most populous state in the nation, based upon the 2010 census. We'll have updated data sometime soon, but based upon the 2010 census, we're the 32nd most populated state. We currently have the 30th most cases in the U.S. And what you're seeing, of course, is as we move out of summer and into the fall, just as we saw a year ago, the Delta variant is spreading to states across the country, and many other states are experiencing, from a case standpoint, what we experienced about 2.5 months ago. And so what I think you're going to see is, as the virus moves around the country, case numbers are increasing in many other states. They're decreasing significantly in our state. And so when you look at when the question is what is Mississippi doing and is it working? We had 3,650 cases on a 7-day moving average about 7 weeks ago. Today that number is well below 1,500 cases. We're down 60% from our peak. When you look at hospitalizations, our total number of hospitalizations reached 1,667 during the summer. As of the day before yesterday, that number was below 600. We're down almost 70% in terms of total number of hospitalizations. And yes, fatalities in COVID are a lagging indicator. The hospitalizations number of cases go up first, number of hospitalizations go up after that, number of fatalities, sadly, go up after that. We have seen both, just like in the number of cases, we've seen with the number of daily fatalities and our average rate, they are declining now. But again, every single fatality is a catastrophe, and one that we all wish the nearly 700,000 Americans that have passed away would not have.
Just while we're talking about the virus, last week, Lieutenant Governor and Speaker of the House said that, if there is a special session, they'd like to see some COVID-19 relief measures also be added to the agenda. You guys met on Monday. Did that come up? Do you have any thoughts on that? I know previously you had said that you did not want to call a special session to address any sort of COVID-19.
Yeah, well, clearly we have some opportunities, should we call a special session, to add topics. The first conversation and the first decision point is, are we going to add anything beyond medical marijuana. And the reason we're having this conversation about medical marijuana is because of the vote that occurred. You know very well, as I have said, I voted against Initiative 65. I was vocal about that, but I also respect the will of the voters. And the voters were very clear that a true medical marijuana program is something that they want. And I think we should provide that for them. There's been no final decisions made as to if anything will be added, and if so, what that may look like. Sure.
You said a true medical marijuana program. I mean, we've all seen the draft bill at this point. Do you think that's what the bill contains, a true medical marijuana program? Or I've heard some lawmakers say it's teetering on the edge of being a recreational program.
Well, what I would tell you is that what you're going to find if and when we have a special session is there are going to be people across the spectrum, that some that believe it's way too loose and some that believe it's not nearly loose enough. There are going to be some that believe that if there's 10 major items in the bill, you'll get at least 25 different opinions on all 10 of those items. And so at the end of the day, I think the legislative leadership was working to craft a piece of legislation that could garner the necessary votes to pass. That is part of the legislative process. And again, I think there will be tweaking of the draft bill that you've seen for some time. Yes, Emily.
Following up on a question that Lee asked, do you think that Mississippi should spend part of its federal pandemic relief money to provide financial aid to hospitals to keep nurses and other healthcare professionals on the job?
Well, we're looking at all of our options. I don't think there's any doubt that Mississippi needs more healthcare workers. During my time in government, we've invested some $70 million in creating a new medical school at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. That new medical school is going to has already increased the annual size of our medical school class from approximately 100 students to in excess of 150, so almost 50% increase due to that $67 million investment. We have invested almost $28 million in a new nursing school on the campus of the University of Southern Mississippi. This was years ago, and so I think it's clear that we are going to have to continue to invest in encouraging more and more Mississippians to go into the healthcare space. And Ryan and I actually had a conversation about this within the last few days about the role that we can play in training and retraining individuals within Mississippi, because no matter what, with or without the coronavirus, we have an aging population in our state and really in our country. And as folks get older and older, there's going to be more and more demand for healthcare services. And I think that we've got to find ways to get more and more people into that particular field. We're looking at all of our options. There's no doubt that the fact that I had to go hire over 1,000 medical professionals to meet the demands of our hospitals over the last couple of months is not something that I ever anticipated that I would have to do, and quite frankly, not something I think I should have had to do. But we did it because we wanted to make sure that, again, that we met our objective to ensure that every single Mississippian that could get better with quality care received that quality care. The other thing I'll point out is we did that, and we still have many of those individual workers in our hospitals. We also did that to make sure that that the total that individuals across Mississippi that maybe didn't have COVID that needed to go to the hospital and needed to go to the ER, whether it was an automobile accident in the north part of the state or a heart attack in the south part of the state, that there was available personnel to treat those individuals. We found that there was almost 1,000 beds available throughout Mississippi, even at the height of the pandemic when we had 1,667 patients in hospital beds that tested positive for COVID. Even at that height, we had almost 1,000 beds that did not have adequate personnel to fill them, and so that's certainly something we're trying to do. Yes, ma'am.
So, Governor, we know that abortion has also been a pertinent topic lately. So what can you say just about the upcoming December 1st abortion hearing that will be brought before the Supreme Court?
Oral arguments are going to occur the first week of December. Myself and a lot of people around our state and around this country have been praying for this opportunity to protect young babies that have not made it out of their mom's womb for many, many years since the Supreme Court enacted Roe v. Wade in the early to mid 1970s. And we appreciate the court's willingness to hear our case. In the Mississippi case, it is a case, a bill that I helped shepherd through the Mississippi legislature, which makes it illegal in Mississippi to get an abortion after 15 weeks. Here's what we know about babies that are 15 weeks old in the womb. We know that their heart has begun to develop. We know that many of their senses have begun to develop. We know that they can experience pain at 15 weeks. We know that every single year there is more technology to determine more things. Every single year and every single time we have more technology, it argues for the fact that those babies are alive and they are really they really need to be protected. And so there's no doubt in my mind that since the court ruled on Roe in the early 70s, that the science has changed. And it makes perfect sense for the United States Supreme Court to recognize that the science has changed and at a minimum to give us the opportunity to defend this law that was duly passed in the Mississippi legislature, and we welcome that opportunity. Thank you all very much for giving us the opportunity for being here today. If you have any follow-up questions, Corey and Bailey will be happy to take them, and we'll try to get back with you. Again, I am very, very excited about the work that Ryan and his team are doing. It's going to make a huge difference long term. It's going to make a huge difference for the people of this state, and ultimately it's going to make a huge difference for our economy. So thank you all, and God bless.
Governor, can I ask